Guys, welcome back to the show of Investing Without Regrets, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners. We talk about real situations. There's no BS. Everything's very transparent, and we give actionable steps so you guys can either start your guys' own business or start investing into real estate. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Joe Ferrin. Joe, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good. Joe, so I know you as a successful real estate investor here in Burley, Idaho, small town. I know you're the owner of J2 Homes. You have a property management company, Rogue Property Management. I know you've done this in the area. You've been super successful. But before you had the success you have today, take us back to the very beginning of who was Joe Ferrin in the early stages of your life.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I grew up here in Burley, born and raised all my whole life, went to Burley High School. And I always knew that I wanted to do something with my life. And so I actually went and got a mechanical engineering degree, what I started in, and went to Boise State, so go Broncos. Once we finished up my engineering degree, I went to work in the mechanical engineering field for, I think I did about 6 years for a design firm up in Boise.
Really?
And in about 2018 or so, we got the idea that we should start investing in real estate. And so my wife and I bought our first property, and it was actually here in Burley, even though we were living up in Boise. Mm-hmm. And so that's what got the ball rolling. We bought a fourplex here in town. And then by about 2020, I really got the itch, kind of tired of the corporate life, thought I wanted to be a business owner and figure out what we were going to do. And so in 2020 or 2021, I believe, we hung up the engineering career and bought a bunch of building lots here in Burley and moved home and started J2 Homes and started building rental properties.
Man, that's incredible. Tell us a little bit about, once you made that decision, what was like one of the first steps that you took, even if it was just a small step?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it was, I consumed a lot of podcasts and books and just kind of all the business, the usual circuit, right? Listening to everybody on YouTube and podcasts, trying to get some level of base understanding realistically, it's just the courage to do it, right? When you have a corporate job and you have paid time off and your life's pretty cushy, as an engineer, you make decent money. And so, that was kind of hard and kind of scary to take that leap and go out into something else. But I think the reality that really got me excited about doing it was I was tired of, at that time I was working for the J.R. Simplot company as an engineer, and so you could physically see when you were going to work for Simplot that you were putting money into the Simplot family, pockets, right? And so, which is not a bad thing, but like at one point we were kind of like, hey, well, like maybe we should go build something for ourselves, you know what I mean? And so just getting the courage and, consuming some content around like how to even start a business or what kind of service you could offer. That was just a small step, something that we were able to, kind of do to get the courage to get going.
Yeah. And just to give a little bit of, feedback on that, they do say that if you do not work on your own dream, you'll be working on someone else's dream.
Exactly.
But people do not understand it or don't see that. So how did you get the courage? What was behind that mindset that changed in you to start a business, and especially into real estate? Why real estate?
Yeah. Well, real estate, the main reason for us in real estate was, so my wife and I dated in high school. Then I went off to college, and then she came to college, and we got married. We got married pretty young. I was 21. She was 20 or 19. Mm-hmm. But my mother-in-law was an investor in real estate. And so as we dated, so my wife's dad actually passed away when my wife was about 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And so my mother-in-law they were farmers, and my mother-in-law was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And so she was really trying to figure out what she was going to do. And her brother was like, hey, you should buy some real estate, some cash flowing real estate. And so that's what she did. She bought a few to kind of get started. And this was back in 2007, 2008, before the crash. And so then she rode through the crash and hadn't bought on the other side. And so when my wife and I started dating, I remember thinking like, what does your mom do for work? You know, like, and asking, and she's like, oh, she, you know, owns real estate, rental properties. I'm like, okay, yeah, like, sounds good. Like, no idea what that means, right?
Yeah.
And then like you think about it some more, and it's like, yeah, but how does she make money? Like, she owns these rentals, but like, how does she make money, right? Like, I didn't know. So like talking through her over the years and like realizing, oh, okay, so you buy this and then they pay rent and that covers the mortgage and the expenses, and then there's a net margin there, right? And so that really got my wheels turned, and that would have been back in 2011 or 12. But of course, had no money, you know, or anything like that. And so went through college knowing, hey, I want to go become an engineer, make some decent money. And then eventually I'd like to buy some real estate. And so, yeah, we, as we got going and started buying some real estate, what gave me the courage to kind of go start our own business was like, I had some mentors and stuff, my mother-in-law being one of them, that like, she owned real estate, but real estate's still a business, right? And so seeing what she was doing and what she was able to do gave me some courage. And then we just, you know, we kind of planned it out and had some savings set aside. So we knew we had at least a 6-month runway of, hey, let's go try this for 6 months. And if it all blows up in our face, right, we'll just go back and get another engineering job. And so that's what we did, is we just, you know, we saw people that were doing it, and I was networking with people who had done it and done it successfully. And even people who had just started, right? Like getting with people who are just one step ahead of you is great, because when you talk to people who are 10 steps ahead of you, it feels unattainable.
Yeah.
And so talking to your buddies or anybody, you know, that might only be like, they just quit their job 6 months ago, gives you a lot of courage. And so I have shout out to my buddy Luke Bloxham. We went to high school together as well. It was funny. We lived concurrent paths in different cities. So we both graduated, went to college. He went to BYU, Idaho. I went to Boise State. We kind of lost contact. But about that time, we both started posting on social media again that we were buying real estate and stuff. So he was just getting ready to quit his corporate job when I was. And so we'd get on the phone together and be like, you quit first. No, you quit first, you know, kind of encouraging each other. And so those three things, you know, are really what did, is having someone there with you, my buddy Luke, holding your hand, you know, kind of helping you jump off the ledge with you. Having a good mentor that's done it before you. And honestly, you know, my wife too, just having the courage to like, let's do it, you know, let's take a risk on ourselves and see what happens. So
yeah. And that is very, very important. You know, they always say this, you hear this over and over again, that you become the average of the 5 people you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with 5 drunkies, you're probably going to be the 6th one. If you're hanging out with 5 millionaires and people that are ambitious and always out there, you know, go-getters, you're probably going to be the 6th one. So yeah, that has to do a lot with you know, who you hang out with. Tell us a little bit about your wife. What's your wife's name?
My wife's Jolie.
Yep. What can you tell us about Jolie?
She's awesome. She is she's crazy in the sense that she's just a go-getter. Like, let's just go do it, you know, when she gets an idea. So a perfect example, the lots that we bought to move back to this town, there were 2 properties that we had found. One was a 4-plex for about $450,000, and then there were these 17 building lots, and I think the price on those was like $425 at the time, somewhere in there, $400,000. And at the time, we were kind of going back and forth on, hey, should we buy this 4-plex that cash flows, or should we buy these building lots? But then we need all this capital to go produce, you know, and build these properties. And she just right off the bat, like, we want the building lots. There's more value in those building lots. And I'm kind of like, you know, I think we should buy that cash flowing 4-plex, but she just steadfast, you know, and she's really good at that. That once she kind of decides, she's on, and she just means it. And so that makes it easier for me, that I can float out these kind of crazy ideas, because I am kind of the visionary entrepreneur, ADHD, you know, miles,
like, you know, shiny object, squirrel.
Yeah. And so I'll say something, and every once in a while she'll lock onto one and say, let's go do that. Yeah. And then the rest of them we can just let fizzle out. Yeah. But yeah, no, she's a great mom. We got 2 kids. We got almost a 4-year-old. And next month we'll have our little one turns 1. That's Lainey and Eleanor. Okay. She's a great mom. She's a real estate agent, and she helps run our property management company. So she's wearing a lot of hats and really helps us out, because we got a lot going on, and she's amazing.
Good. Has she been a key to your success?
Absolutely. Yep. No, I think I was listening to a thing the other day, and someone was saying, like, you know, there's a formula for success, and they were kind of relating it back to like, get married young, have kids. There's a couple steps that they had in there. But the longer I go, the more I do believe in that, because my wife, she pushed me to be better, every day, of course. And then you have kids, and then that's another push to even be better. And you just want to, be a good dad and be a good business owner and produce some income to take care of your family. And so definitely I could have had a really cool truck, if I stayed single, or, but things shift when you have, a wife and kids, and realign your perspective. So absolutely, she's a key to my success.
Yeah. I can testify to that. Once you're, when you're single and you see a little bit of money and see a little bit of success, I'm guilty of that. You get money, you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this cool truck. Yeah. Once you do get married and you have kids, your whole mind shift just shifts. And right now, I don't care about a cool truck. I don't care about cool clotles or whatever it is. I just wear something nice from Walmart or wherever it is.
Totally.
Something that's clean. But I spend so much on stupid things.
Totally. But and she totally, she's much more the saver of the two of us, right? And so that definitely helps too. Like, I always joke with her that she definitely didn't marry me for the money, because when we got married in 2015, I had $27 in my bank account, right? Like, I spent the last bit of my money on the wedding ring and the honeymoon, and that was it, right? So yeah, she's been there from day one and help us build it all.
So to do a little bit of a follow up on your question and talk a little bit about your past, and then we'll talk about the present. Do you come from a lot of money?
No, we were very middle class. My dad, he worked in the ag industry. So he worked for Fresh Pack Potato Plant, as a field manager. Then he went to another potato plant, and then he's finished his career out over at a mineral warehouse. So they supply mineral to the cattle industry, dairy and feedlot industry. And my mom was a school teacher. And we always had a little side hobby farm that we'd farm, 100 acres here and there that we could pick up. I think my dad mainly did that just to teach us kids how to work, like we really didn't make any money off of it. It was more just an excuse to work with us kids and teach us how to, work with our hands. And so, very middle class. We didn't hurt for anything. We always had food and shelter and basketball shoes when we needed them, right? But we definitely weren't, living the high life and going on vacations and doing all that. And so that definitely, I have two siblings. I have a brother and a sister. All three of us know how to work hard, because that's kind of how we were raised, and it was a good life. It was fun.
Yeah. Do you think that's what that had a lot to do with who you are today? That work ethic?
Yeah, the work ethic for sure. I think the more I learn about business, the more I kind of realize that the guys who are successful are the guys who just didn't quit. And if they aren't finding success in one thing, then they shift or pivot a little bit, and they, shift their business or tweak this or that. And that's how they do find success, and they just don't give up. Right. And if you're not willing to work hard, then you're just not going to make it. And I know a lot of guys who think that, if I become my own boss, then I won't have to work as hard, or I go boat in the middle of the day, and all my employees will take care of everything, right? And that's just not the reality. When you get into business, you end up working harder than everybody else to keep everything in front of everybody, and so you have to have work ethic to be a business owner for sure.
Yeah, you're the first one in, and you're the last one out, and sometimes you're even the last one that gets paid. You didn't even know if there's going to be enough money there for payroll. I learned that in the early stages when I started my first business, my repair shop. Yeah, my brother and I, we were just there from 6 a.m. until 10 at night, and that helped us a lot because we both had the drive. We both were excited, and we had ambition. But after a while, man, you get burned out.
Oh, for sure.
You get burned out, and if you have to build that resilience and that patience, because if you do not see the fruits of your work, you're like, man, is this even worth it?
Yeah.
But you have to have patience.
Yep. Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit right now. So you didn't come from a lot of money, and the reason I ask that's because anybody that's listening out there is going to say, well, he had his mother-in-law that guided him. He came in, But in reality, anybody can do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no smarter than I didn't graduate with A+ and from high school. I didn't graduate with honors. Anybody can do it, right? At the end of the day, it is fifth grade math.
For sure.
Okay, so tell us a little bit. What does your portfolio look like in the present? What does J2 Homes do? And what are you focused on, and what kind of strategy you're doing in real estate?
Yeah, so we only up until this point have invested in cash flowing long-term hold assets, right? We don't do any short-term Airbnb or midterm rental, anything like that. We started out with just buying, a fourplex on the MLS, the open market, and then we bought a triplex same way right after that. As things got tighter and tighter, we realized we were looking at those lots. We knew that as the market heated up more and investor pressure became to get harder, it was harder to find deals, and interest rates, back then still were decent, but it was harder to find cash flowing assets, right? So that's when we we basically focus on the build to rent strategy now. So I always say we are in the build to rent small multifamily strategy, meaning we build duplex, triplex, or fourplexes so that we can stay in the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loan product, fixed rate 30-year debt, and we build it from the ground up. So we can control costs, and I get to decide what spec level we build into the homes. And so that ties into J2 Homes. J2 Homes, we try and build higher performance, longer lasting investment properties and spec houses. So we invest more money into the envelope of our homes. We put a little bit nicer cabinets in our homes. We make strategic decisions into how we're building our product. And so we are not the cheapest builder in town, and I don't ever want to be, because I don't want my product getting blown up. And so we make those strategic decisions because most of the product that we build, we own. And I plan to own it for 20 or 30 years. And so like a perfect example is we started putting on a siding product that's a pre-finished, the name of it's called Diamond Coat, but it's a pre-finished siding that has a 30-year no fade guarantee on the paint job.
Oh, really?
And so we put that on because one, the wind blows a lot in Burley, and you can't paint the house unless it's 45 degrees. And so if you eliminate windy days and cold days in Burley, you can only paint houses 6 months of the year anyways, right?
Yeah.
And so if you get a pre-painted product that's painted in a factory, then you get a better paint job, and then it's not going to fade for 30 years, or they'll warranty it. And so we make those strategic investments so that we don't have to pay for it in CapEx, right, on the rental side. And so we may build a product that might be slightly lower performing in terms of cap rate, but we think over the long term, we're going to have a lot less maintenance issues and stuff with that. And so our portfolio right now, my wife and I, our personal portfolio, we own, we're right under 30 doors. And then our Rogue Property Management manages just under 50 doors. And then J2 Homes, my construction side, we do about $2 or $2.5 million in revenue a year in construction costs. So
Good.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you're still actively looking. You're always doing deals. Left and right. Interest rates have been a little bit tough right now in the market, right? And are you still finding deals out there? And because people complain, they're like, "Oh, there's no deals out there. I can't find deals. I can't do this." And when you look at other investors, they're still going. Are you still finding deals? And if so, how are you coming across them?
Yeah, so right now we haven't found much in terms of on the open MLS market. I think a lot of that is where we've gotten a little more creative. We don't really do any of the creative subject to. We've looked at that strategy. I think it's probably a little more work than what we're willing to do, right? We have this whole other arm of construction, and that's the hard we're willing to choose versus like the wholesale subject to, some of those other strategies. We did pick up one almost a year ago in August via owner carry. So that's one option, is like talking with, tired landlords. That's a big one right now. Wholesalers are always a great option. I have a couple buddies that are wholesalers in Boise, and so we're actually underwriting a 67 unit storage complex deal right now that came from a wholesaler. And so that's where we're finding our deals, is through network more than just the open market.
Yeah.
Speaking
of which, you're the one that bailed me out of my deal that I lost a lot of money. So Yeah, I made a video of that one, and that really sucked. So,
Yeah.
which is gonna,
For you.
yeah, for me, that really sucks. So, I want to talk a little bit about that because everybody shares the success, right?
Yep.
All you see on Instagram and Facebook and whatever it is, social media, you just see everybody flashing the cars,
Totally.
money, whatever. But sometimes nobody shares like the struggles, the
Right.
fears. On that one, I mean, I did lose like $40,000. I did
Right.
not know what I was doing. I had that what they call the uninformed optimism. Then I'm like, how hard can it be?
Right.
He can do it. I can do it. It can't be that hard. I found out pretty quick it's not as easy as it looks.
Right.
And to go back to your comment that choose your hard, everything in real estate is hard.
Totally.
Wholesaling, fix and flipping, new construction, there's nothing easy. Everything is hard. So tell us a little bit of one of your biggest mistakes or biggest regrets that you had in business in the early days or as of right now. What has been one of your biggest mistakes?
Yeah, I think probably our biggest mistake up until this point, and I think every business goes through this, is we just recently had, it's in the construction business in J2 Homes. We just recently had, we probably weren't as tight with some of our contracts and stuff as we should be. So we recently had a project that we ended up not getting paid our full amount that was owed. Luckily, it was only $5,000 that we got shorted. It could have been much worse. We're still kind of trying to settle the rest of that out. But yeah, so we signed a contract that maybe we should have had an attorney look at a little bit closer. And when it comes down to it, in the construction industry, they felt like they didn't owe me the full amount, and that's okay. But you can go to court over $5,000, or you can take your money and run, right? And so I don't know if that's my biggest regret, but that's a fresh one that I'm working through. And so we're currently revamping some of our structure and contracts so that we have signed contracts on projects. If there's any change orders, there'll be signed change orders, regardless what it does to the schedule. And so you see as you go in business, whether it's rental real estate, construction, property management, repair shop, anything like that, that the longer you go, the more paperwork, the more contracts, the more, protecting yourself becomes important. And so that's where we're at right now. That luckily it was only a $5,000 mistake right now. Could have been a lot more if we got bit with a different client. And so that's one that's fresh that we're working through right now.
Yeah. You become wiser as time goes, right? Yeah, we got taken advantage so much in the early stages of our repair shop. We bid at something and we were naive. They're like, "Oh, I can only afford, instead of $1,800, I'll only pay you $1,300."
Right.
Like, "Oh, dude, we'll take that because we needed money."
Need the money, yeah.
And then sometimes they would come and people would do this. People would come to our repair shop and cry like, "Hey, I only have this much. Can you take payments?"
Right.
And us being good-hearted, good people are like, "Yeah, for sure, we'll take payments." Never seen them again. I'm like, why would we do that?
Never get a single payment.
Yeah, never got a single payment.
Yeah.
So it definitely can bite you in the ass being good people, and then being a good person, and then as later time came out, like, hey, we're not banks. You go ask your buddy, somebody for payments. I'm not here to make payments.
Yeah, and the hard part about it is, at the end of the day, when these things happen, it's you as the business owner are taking the risk. And that's the money that puts food in your kid's mouth, right? And so sometimes, like, I can tend to be a little bit maybe like not anti-conflict, but I try and avoid conflict. And so even through that one, it got to the point where I was like, I don't even care anymore. Just give me my money. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to hear about it again. But the reality was, you have to go fight for that money because that's $5,000 that my family doesn't get for the basic needs that we need, right? And so some of that stuff shifts as a business owner. And it's not that you're trying to be, a jerk or mean to people or anything like that. It's just like, this is what the contract said. And this, if you're taking money from me in order to, you're taking advantage of me. And so another one we had that just came to mind was when we bought those first 17 lots, we hadn't been through a full development cycle before, meaning we hadn't bought raw dirt, turned them all the way into buildable lots.
Rezoned it.
Yeah, and all that. And so when we bought those 17 lots, they were already zoned, and 14 of the 17 lots had curb, gutter, utilities, everything ready to go. But we did get bid on our last 3. And of course we waited until the very end to do it. We didn't build on those ones because the city wouldn't allow us to build on them until we had a paved road down up against those properties. And so that was an expense to the tune of, we just got the bill as $88,000 to put in curb, gutter, road, asphalt, all the stuff. Right. And so we had to bite the bullet on that one and go ahead and build those buildings anyways, because it was either we leave the lots unfinished, the project looks done, or we pay the $88,000 and we go and finish the project out. And so we got a little bit lower return on those projects, but that was a chunk of change that we did not account for.
I bet that sucked.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I think you only have, and it's a perfect way you put it. You either just leave it like that or you push forward, and you just there's things that you have that you're not prepared for, but you can't give up.
Yep.
You gotta just keep going. Like
totally.
that house that I sold to you, man. Yeah. That, by the way, thanks for bailing me out of that one. But the house, what can I do? I couldn't do anything. Yeah. Now, I do remember. I remember saying a phrase I heard. So like, don't try to make money the same way you lost it. Meaning that I lost money by buying a house. Mm-hmm. I could have tried to made a little bit of money by doing a new house, tearing it down. But then that was going to take time for me.
Yeah, totally.
I'm like, just take my loss and I'm going to go make it up somewhere else by doing another fix and flip, another wholesale. And yeah, sometimes there's things that you don't account for, but you just got to keep pushing.
Totally.
Keep pushing. So,
well, that house you sold me is turned into a nice little 3-bedroom house over there.
I seen it
here in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, I seen it. I maybe you can give me a little kickback.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, on the sale.
Yeah. What are some of that we're talking in the present? So you're based more on new constructions. You don't buy and remodel most of the things. What's some of the hardest obstacles that you come across on new construction?
Yeah, new construction, the last couple of years has been controlling your costs, right? Labor continues to go up, and material costs are kind of all over the board. Luckily, those are coming down a little bit right now. Then they're going up, so that's helpful. But just trying to get those costs, and construction is. I listened to another podcast, and what he says all the time is construction's undefeated, right? Like, what we're trying to do in construction, we're trying to build this beautiful end product for somebody, and we're doing it through the heat of the summer, in the rain, in the snow, right? Through the wind, over a period of 6 months, right? And so construction will just beat you down, right? And it seems like the more contractors or home builders, the older they get, they kind of get jaded and grumpy, and I feel that too, right? Because you just get tired of getting ground down, right? And so a lot of it's just like, I even call it like the pre-construction scaries, where we'll sell a job, we're just getting ready to start 4 spec houses, super exciting through the sales process, and then we break ground, right? And actually your brother's pouring concrete for us, right? Mm-hmm. And right when you start pouring concrete, you start to think, oh boy, we got a 4-month jaunt here, or a 6-month jaunt of holding guys accountable to show up when they need to show up, and getting the material there, and making sure people don't steal the material, and no vandalism, and all the stuff, right? Because you're dealing with, like I said, weather, and then you've got all the personal issues with, how many guys touch a home to build it? Hundreds. There's hundreds of people involved to build a home. And so just the management of all that is the struggle. But I still, back to choosing your hard, I would rather choose that hard than do fix and flips, because you never know what you're going to tear a wall open and find, a big mold problem or a foundation issue that you found, you're, the one you sold me.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So for me, at least, I know that I can control that side of the project, and then I'll handle, as much as I can, the new construction side. And that's just what we've chose to be our hard. And that's, and
you become great at it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I do understand that a little bit of struggle. It can be stressful. People say like, oh, how hard can it be? I mean, back to the same thing. I had that optimism when I built my home in 2018. Like, how hard can I'm going to be the general contractor? Mm-hmm. It's just lining up people, getting material. I found out 2 months, 3 months later, I'm like, holy smokes, this is harder than I thought. Yeah. By the 5th month, 6th month, I was tired of it. I'm like, whatever, just paint the cabinets, whatever it is. Just put a roof over this thing. Right. But yeah, it takes a lot of management, a lot of patience, and sometimes material doesn't get here, so you delay everything. Totally. Everybody, the plumber, the electrician, the painter, and they're like, it can be chaos.
I saw one video online where is a builder that I follow down she is in Salt Lake, and they were doing a big, a big bathroom remodel, full tear out of this nice master bathroom. And they did a whole video series on just how many decisions are involved in a bathroom remodel, right? And there was over 1,000 decisions that need to be made just in the bathroom, right? Whether it's what toilet you want, what tile you want, what grout thickness you want, right? What the orientation of your tile, your faucet, your countertop, your cabinets. And so that's where a lot of people, I do think people get in, they think a general contractor or a home builder, you're just calling guys. I call your brother Marcel, pour the foundation, and it just happens. Well, there's 40 decisions that I got to work through with Marcel just on the foundation, right? And so hiring a professional home builder, someone who does it and has done it successfully is worth the money, because you have no idea how many decisions are really
unless you really want to get the patience. Would I build my house again? I don't know. Man. Everything came down to the nitty gritty.
Yep.
And that's the finishes.
Yep.
The framing, the concrete, well, it looks simple. It's not simple, but they pour the foundation and then they do the flat work, all that stuff. Framing, they do the framing. It takes a lot. Because everything has to be squared. But then once you start choosing, like, what color of tile, what color are the cabinets, what design in the cabinets, do we want crown, do we want it on here? Yeah. That was a headache.
Yep.
What kind of molding? Do you want crown molding inside? I'm like, I just want a door, man. Right. And there's like 20,000. You go into Lowe's or Home Depot and there's like 20,000 options. And that door looks nice, but then that other door looks nicer. Yeah, it's a headache. I would take that burden off my back anytime. So how are you coming up with the money for your deals? It seems like you're doing a big volume. Are you going to just traditional lending for your buy and holds, or how are you raising money for all of this?
Yeah, so we've done a mix of all of it. So we've had some private money on construction. We've used private money in the past. All of our deals are converted to long-term 30-year debt through we have a mortgage broker in Boise we do all of our deals with, and so we convert all those over to 30-year standard mortgages for our buy and holds. We've done the private money, I said. We've done some owner carry, on other properties, and that's really what we've learned in real estate in general. If we're talking real estate, construction similar, but in real estate, the reality is real estate takes money. Everyone loves to say like they're low and no money down options and this and that, and sure, that's true, but the reality is the low and no money down is somebody else's money, right? Whether like on my owner carry, I didn't have to put as much. They let us do a 10% down payment on that fourplex, and then they carried the rest. Well, that is that property owner's money or equity sitting there that they're essentially lending to us, right?
They become the bank.
They become the bank. And so that's what we've realized is like in real estate, you either need to have the money or you need a partner or a private money lender or a homeowner. Somebody's money has to be tied up in the asset. And so we've explored all the options. We've done a little bit of everything. The easiest way, what we found, is to fund the construction either with your own money or through a private money lender, and then as soon as you're done with the construction, convert that into long-term debt. And that's the main method that we've used.
How are you establishing those relationships with private money lenders?
Yeah, so a lot of it's through network. Honestly, like that's the other part of this business in real estate is it's actually a pretty small, sector, and you get online and social media and you end up finding the guys who are kind of doing similar things. And so through network, and if someone's going to give you a couple $100,000, they kind of need to know like what you're doing, the business model. I know some guys that will lend money to people that they don't really know if the business model or the asset's going to protect themselves. But majority of the time, I would say they have some level of personal relationship with the person so that they know not only do they have the personal guarantee backed by the asset, but they feel good about what that person's doing. And so it's all network and personal relationship.
Yeah, I agree. And people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Totally. That's what they say. And it's all relationships at the end of the day. So now that you're doing So besides doing your own deals, are you doing custom homes for other people then?
No, well, we've done a few custom homes, semi-custom, what you call. They were custom in the sense that we designed them from the floor up, but some people define custom home as like these big fancy whatever. These were $500,000-$600,000 homes, but I'm kind of realigning my business to go to basically like spec build, first time home buyer and rental, mainly working for other investors. So we've worked for ourselves building the build to rent stuff. Of course, we build our own spec houses as well. And then I'm just starting to work with another developer here in town where we're going to start with 4 spec houses. And I like that model because the custom homes that we've done are like, I have a big remodel going for a client right now. The hard part about those jobs is it's very emotional, right? And so back to like you building your own home, you get the paint color and it looks good on the sample and you put it on the wall and it looks good, and then you paint the whole house and the homeowner comes in and it's like, that's not the color that I wanted. The lighting looks different or what. And that emotional process has not been the most fun for me.
Oh yeah.
I tend to lean a little bit more on the let's talk numbers and investment. And so I tend to work a little bit better with the investors themselves, where it's not that they don't care about the product, but whether the paint is true white or a light cream or a little bit of gray, they don't really care because the end homeowner, really just either likes the home and buys it or they don't,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I'm structuring my business now.
Okay, good. So now what does your future look like? Let's say here in the next 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see J2 Homes? Where do you see your property management, or where do you see your investments? Are you looking to get into other things like commercial, or what's your future?
That's a good question. We're open to movement, obviously, but I think probably what we'll continue to do is J2 Homes will stay mainly focused on what we use J2 Homes for is to produce capital, right? So investing in real estate, like I said, you need some sort of money, whether it's you or somebody else's. And so we're utilizing J2 Homes as the cash engine for our real estate investments. So we go build spec houses to make a return, and then we invest that money into rental properties or more build to rent product. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword there in terms of we'll build for clients to produce money, and we'll build for ourselves to build our own rental properties. And so in 10 years, I think really where we want to head is into more development into, I really like the fourplex community model.
Mm-hmm.
My mother-in-law did some projects back in 2017 in Boise where they built 10 fourplex buildings or 20 fourplex buildings. The last one they did was 28 fourplex buildings in Twin Falls. And then each building has an individual lot and block number, and then they can sell them to individual investors.
Oh, okay.
I really like that model because it's kind of apartment style. You have, economies of scale in terms of on-site manager, sharing the utility costs, HOA cost, all that stuff for the whole complex. But there's still individual fourplex buildings that you can get individual 30-year loans on instead of bumping into that commercial loan product, which I go back and forth on, right? I like the commercial loan product that there's no personal guarantees, and that you can, if the asset performs, it stands on its own. But I also like that fixed rate debt for 30 years that I know today what I'm going to pay for 30 years. And so I think that's where we'll head is more, we'll scale up the spec home side of the business to produce more cash. And then we'll just continue to invest in our own rental developments if they're big enough, we'll take on more investors. But essentially what we want to do is bolster up the investment side of our business so that we can create long-term generational wealth for my kids and grandkids.
Good. Yeah. So you're with the J2 Homes, you're producing and coming up with active income.
Correct.
So then you can later invest that, dump it into real estate, and then produce passive income.
Absolutely.
So you're betting more on the appreciation, on the principal pay down, what a long-term traditional.
Totally.
It's very important, and I want to touch about this as we go into, we're going to head to another segment of the show and talk about fears and obstacles. But before we do, you mentioned about that you want to produce and have generational wealth for your family. What are you gonna do different with your kids so they learn how to appreciate the things and learn how to work for them? Because they're not gonna have the same lifestyle probably you did, right?
Totally.
My kids are not having the same lifestyle that I did.
Right.
Where we didn't suffer from not having food, but we didn't have all these luxurious stuffs and just little trips. How are you gonna work that into them? How are you gonna teach them things? How are you gonna just have them be grateful.
Yeah, it's a good question. Something I am still working through, and I have some buddies that we talk about this quite a bit because they're on a similar path. But I think a lot of it just comes down to, there's been times where I've questioned if we'll stay in construction because it is a tough business. But one thing that keeps bringing me back is the days of working with my dad on our little hobby farm, right? And you have a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat, blood, tears, all of that. And so I just keep coming back to, no, we have to stay in construction because I need my kids on the job site. I need my kids to learn how to work hard and work in the hot sun and all of that stuff. And so I think right now, again, I only have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, that I do think that it's just going to come through like showing them what hard work looks like, because I do kind of believe in the saying that like your kids, it's caught, not taught, right? You can tell them all you want and tell them not to do things, but they're going to do what you do and what they see you do. We even see that now with our kids and things that I say that I might not want them to say.
Yeah.
I hear them in the other room, right?
Like, what did you say?
I was like, wait a second, I didn't tell them to say that, right? They heard me say it. And so I think a lot of it is just, holding the line with you need to continue to work hard and show them, what a hard life looks like. And even though you may be making some money or you may be wealthy, whatever you define wealth to be, that they see you living it out, right? You're not out there just hanging out on the beach all the time. And luckily I don't have that personality that I don't think I can ever just do that and go sit on the beach. You know what I mean? I'll always have something to do. And so I hope, but that's, it weighs down the line for me. So I'll still have to figure out that as we go.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that's one of the hardest things in life, being a parent. Mm-hmm. There is no perfect handbook. No. There is, real estate, building a new home, you can't create a handbook.
For sure.
First goes foundation.
Yeah.
Then you build, then comes framing. Yep. And then you cover, then you put the roof or put the windows, you dry everything. And then there's your rough ends, right? Yep. And you do you'll come over little struggles here and there and little obstacles, but it's a same cookie cutter process.
Absolutely.
Being a parent is hard.
Absolutely.
There's ups and downs, and man, I thought I had patience before being a dad, and my God, once I had my kids, I really learned true patience, and it's tough.
For sure.
It's one of the toughest jobs.
I thought I was pretty selfless, right? I thought I was not a very selfish person and selfless, and then you have kids and you realize, turns out I'm pretty selfish too. Not only am I not patient, but I'm selfish as well, because there's times you don't want to read that book for the 100th time tonight. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or why didn't you eat your dinner when it was dinner time and now it's 10 p.m. in bedtime and we're doing another snack and another kitchen,
Dude,
being a parent is hard.
But you know what is one of the biggest blessings God could possibly ever give us? I would never trade that feeling of love for my kids for nothing in the world.
Absolutely.
It is it's given. Don't you think it's fun? It's given me so much purpose into my life before being a parent, and then after being a parent, I'm like, my God, these kids changed my life. Absolutely. It is so joyful when they do these little things, and they piss me off sometimes. But I'm like, gosh, man, I would not trade it. Right. I would not trade it for.
And I'm 30, almost 32, and I'm still pissing my parents off, so it never goes away.
Yeah. You never learn. You never. I don't know if I should, or you're probably on the same boat. But you never learn to appreciate your parents as much until you become a parent yourself. Absolutely. That's when you're like, holy crap, man. Yeah. That old man wasn't just bugging me just cause. He wasn't just messing up my life. He was actually, trying to teach me something, or your mother, right?
Yep. Yeah, we thought about that. We played a lot of travel baseball growing up. My dad was a big baseball guy. He played professional baseball for 4 years, and he so we did a lot of that. And looking back now that we have a 4-year-old, as we're getting into maybe playing some sports and stuff, I think, man, for 4 or 5 summers, we had 8 baseball tournaments in 9 weeks over the summer. And just thinking about the commitment that they had to me and our team and traveling to go and play that, it's like, good on you, because can you think, 9 weeks of your summer and 8 of them are traveling to these baseball tournaments, what I mean? And so looking back, it's like, man, you guys are crazy. I don't know if I've got it, for, for my kids. So yeah, you definitely gain an appreciation for your parents when you have kids.
And you know what? As growing up, I didn't come up with, grow up with like luxury trips or anything. Only famous because we went to Mexico and whatnot. But my dad always, lived below his means and always was always trying to preserve the money. But my one thing he always gave me, and that's what I'm trying to always give my kids, is attention. No matter if he came tired, and working in the farm is late hours, especially during harvest. No matter if he came tired, he would always ask me how my day was. He always sat down with me. He always paid attention to me, did my homework. And that's like, my God, that's what really a good dad looks like. So
totally.
You plan on having more kids?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. We got 2 right now, and I tease my wife. I'm like, I think I'm good, but I don't think her baby hunger's cured yet.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. But like I said, having kids, having children is just the blessing. You need to shoot for the boy. He's the one that needs to get.
My brother had 2 girls, and then they just had a boy. He's almost 1 now, and so my grandpa had. I think there were on the Ferrin side of the family, we had 9 granddaughters in a row. We hadn't had a grandson to carry on the Ferrin name until my brother just had one like 8 months ago. So
really, That's cool, man.
Yep.
All right. Well, we talked about the family. Let's talk about we talked about your present, what your future looks like. Let's talk a little bit about fears and obstacles. People always have that fear of starting something new. And I'm like I said, I've done that. I'm guilty of that. When I quit my job to start my own repair shop with my brother, I'm like, well, I think it can be good, but you're still scared, because you lose that security, that secure paycheck every 2 weeks. You don't have to worry about work. You're just there, and you clock out at 6 and you leave. So, starting anything new brings fear. What did you battle early on? What was one of your biggest fears that you and your wife had, and how did you guys overcome it?
Yeah, good question. I think the fear. Well, yeah, fear in general, I think is a little bit of a lie when it comes to the corporate job and being self-employed and all of that. And I think culturally, the school system. This is just my personal opinion. I think the school system kind of trains you up to just be a good employee, and I don't think they do a very good job of laying out options for being a business owner or anything like that, let alone money habits or teaching you how to that's a whole nother thing. But I think I think you just are trained essentially to become an employee. And so when you get to the point of it may be time to go out on your own, I think there's a lot of just like almost this limiting belief or this false, thoughts in your head about the security that you really do have, right? Like a lot of people love to think that they're secure because they have a corporate employer that's paying them and they've got the 2-week vacation or whatever and sick time and all that stuff. But the reality is, like, how many times do we see on the news that like mass layoffs, are coming? Or I mean, now with AI and robotics and stuff that, the new Suntato factory that just opened up here, it's a big factory. And I think it only employs like 80 people, compared to McCain's that employs hundreds. And so as these factories get more and more, and so I just think like you're actually in more control of your income and your time as a business owner than anybody thinks. It's just a matter of making it through that first 6 months to a year to like actually iron out what your true offering is to somebody so that you can actually sell your service or your product. And so I think a lot of it's just culture. I think a lot of it is culture in America. Like you just go through the system, you go get your job, and you just work for 50 years and get your retirement and your 401k. And so I think a lot of it is just like changing your mindset and realizing like you can go produce income through your business if you find the right service or product. And there's a lot of things that people don't want to do that they're willing to pay money for, especially as we get more and more busy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, mowing your yard, walking your dogs, picking up the dog poop in the backyard. There's businesses around that, window washing. Like there's all these businesses that I think that you can go and actually make a decent living, and you're in control of the actual income, not you begging your boss for a 3% raise every year that barely, beats inflation. So I think a lot of it's just mindset.
Yeah. Or can I have time off because I'm going to go on vacation?
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough that I became a business owner when I was like 22, 23 years old. I've only had 3 jobs in my whole entire life. At the farm, a mechanic shop in Rupert, and a mechanic shop in Burley. And then I started my own thing.
Yep.
But I cannot imagine. I do not see myself going back and
Yeah.
working for somebody else. Will I ever? I mean, if something like push comes to shove, will I do it? Of course. I
right.
mean, I'll do it, but I'll find a way to sell something to figure my way out. But I cannot imagine having to ask someone if I can stay a little bit extra, a week more in Mexico,
Right.
or having my wife listening to somebody else that's not her husband. If she can stay somebody else, like
Right.
she can barely listen to me. What is she gonna listen to that guy? You know.
Right.
But it is such a cultural thing.
Yeah.
How are you planning on? It's a good point that you talked there about the school system, because when you're in the circle, you don't see it as bad, right? We do not see that. But once you break out of the circle and then you start, you zoom out and you're like, oh my God, it is bad. Like they don't teach you anything.
Right.
Like you'll never learn or have to know geometry or all this stuff. How are you gonna raise your kids, and are you gonna like homeschooling, or what are you planning on doing so they don't fall into that same pathway?
We have some different thoughts on this. Again, our oldest is 4, almost 4, so we're just about bumping into this preschool, kindergarten, public school, homeschool thing, right? My wife and I have talked a lot about it. We do think we're going to give the homeschool thing a shot, but I think more than anything, what we're going to do is, so I read a book years and years ago. Honestly, it played a big role in me quitting my job and stuff too. It's called Family Teams. It's written by a guy named Jeremy Pryor. And really what he talks about is kind of that same thing, like when you're working for somebody else, you're putting money in that family's pocket or their stockholders, pockets. And so he's a big proponent for, that each family should have their own business and kind of become their own economic driver. A lot of it's based on Old Testament biblical principles, right? And like how the Jewish people apply principles to money. And so I thought that was super interesting. And like, if you look, Jewish people are some of the wealthiest people in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something there. And so like watching how they do it and listening to this book on how he studied, he actually went and studied abroad in Israel and learned from that culture. And so a lot of it is through integration of your family and business, right? And so I'm starting to see more and more of that online as well. Like Pace Morby's a big real estate guy.
Yeah.
He made a post about it the other day with his little kid sitting on his lap while he's working, right? And so, I've joked with you before that I should use your spare office, right? But like my kid, I do a lot of my work at the kitchen table with my kids running around and stuff, and I step outside to make my phone calls. And so I think a lot of it is just that, because back in the Industrial Revolution, when we pulled dads out of homes from working on their farms or working in the blacksmith shop together as a family, like that's how you made money. And that was the economic center of the culture, right? And now what you see is we take dads out of the homes, and now moms too, and it's so expensive to live. We get 2 parents working outside of the home. They go off to this job. The kids have no idea what their parents actually
Somebody else
do,
is raising them.
Yeah, and then you send them to daycare, and so everybody's just scattered, right? And so my wife and I, we really talked about how do we bring it back together, keep our kids somewhat with my daughter. Well, when we had our second daughter, she likes to stay home more now because she wants to play with her little sister, right? But before we had our second kid, she'd go to Franklin Building Supply with me every single morning, right? And get a sucker from the front desk and go see what I was doing, go on job sites with me and stuff. And so I think that's the most important part. And kind of back to that same caught, not taught, saying like, if they're just with you, watching you, when you're having an important meeting with a client and they're off standing there and they can just see the interaction, see what's happening, I think they'll pick up on a whole lot more than we give credit to. And I think that that's a lot of my success too, is being with my dad and watching him interact and how to work and, just being with him. And so I think a lot of that, whether you do homeschool or public school, if you can get that right and try and integrate your kids into what you are actually doing in your business, I think it'll be a huge step ahead.
Yeah. That's so good, man, that you integrate it. A lot of people fail in this, and there's a guy out there. His name's Scott Donnell, I believe. He's really against allowance. Allowance. He says allowance is like socialism. You're just teaching them to spend your money. You're not teaching them how to make money. You're teaching them how to spend your money. Right. Same thing with legacy or people grow. They had scarcity in their life, and once they have a business or make it, then they start giving everything to their kids that they didn't have as they were kids. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. They just hand them everything. And it's important that you say that, because I do that with my kid. I go out there and I go to a flip. I'm like, hey, dude, like, he wanted like a new helmet. He has a new four-wheeler. I'm like, I want a new helmet. I'm like, dude, you have to go work with me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so he went out there. He picked up garbage. And he sees me doing this stuff. And he comes and learns from that. And I think it's very, very important, man, to teach him as you go. And that's how you can teach him, through hard work. A lot of people might see your success, Joe, might see you driving around, making phone calls, and they might think that you have a perfect life, right? Everybody comes through obstacles or challenges in their life. What has been one of your biggest challenge or obstacle and in your life or business, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. We, definitely not a perfect life. One thing that we've really struggled through is balance, and being a business owner, especially in construction. We have guys that'll show up on site at 6 a.m. We have guys that might have a day job and do tile at night and weekends, right? And so as the home builder, or even in real estate, on both sides of my business, you have tenants who, if the classic example is my toilet won't flush at midnight or whatever. I've never had that phone call, but tenants who lock themselves out of their apartment or whatever, right? And so trying to figure out a good balance on how to work but not work all the time. And I think that kind of comes back to the integration thing as well. And my wife and I have really, tried to figure out how to structure this, is that it's just like life is full of work. And I think that's another cultural thing of, we're used to culture in school. It tells us you work from 8 to 5. And I think the reality is sometimes you might work 6 to 10 and have some family time scattered in between, right? And so that's one obstacle we've really struggled through, on how do you get it all done, all the requirements that are required of you, subcontractors, tenants, whatever, and not only trying to balance as a business owner, working in the business on actually producing and working on the business, right? And so it can feel like you never have enough time, and you're never the step ahead that you should be. And to that, I'd just say, just true. We're all feeling it, right? You probably feel it. I feel it. Everybody else I talk to feels it, that they're always a step behind. And so like the obstacle is just to like take some time to reset, realize that the guys you see on social media and your buddies that you talk, they don't have it all figured out either. And even though they might say that they do, they don't. So put the phone down, hang with your family. You know what I mean? Which that's a big obstacle we've struggled through, because at some point, sometimes I bought one of those little, have you seen, they're called brick? Yeah. So I bought a brick, right? So I can.
How does that work? I see.
It works okay. I've
been wanted to try that.
Yeah. It works okay. If you use it,
They haven't sold me on it yet.
Yeah. It works pretty good, because you can lock yourself out of apps and stuff like that. And I would definitely say I have much lower screen time when I use it and stuff like that. But more recently, what's actually been happening, my phone's a year and a half old. And so by 5 o'clock, my phone dies, because I'm on it all day, texting, calling, everybody in construction. And so when my phone dies, I'll just leave it off for a while. You know what I mean? And I found that to be the most effective, because then you don't have a random text message from even your brother who might make it through your brick, or your mom, or whoever. Like, your phone's just off and you're unreachable. That's almost the best way, so that you can focus with your family. And if they really need something, they can call my wife, because she's much better at limiting that,
Isn't it amazing how we're triggered? Have you heard of I read this on a book. It's called Pavlov law. I think it's like Pavlov law or something like that. But the point is, the scientist, he did an experiment where he had a dog, and he starved him pretty much, right? And then when it was time to feed him, he would bring out this nice juicy steak, and then he would ring a bell, and the dog just started salivating. And then he started doing that more often, and he would bring out a steak, and he would just show him and ring the bell. Well, he got to a point that he didn't bring the steak no more. The dog would just hear the bell, listen to the bell, and he would start just salivating, meaning that you can program your brain to like something that can trigger it, and you're like already taking action. So I take that to the phone. If you hear like the moment, and I'm bad about this, the moment I hear like a message come through, I'm like, oh, I need to go check it. I'm like, gosh, man, I ain't bad with this.
Totally.
And I just, when I get home, I just put it on silent. I'm like, I don't need to check it no more. I don't need to check it.
And then you'll get your phone will be dead. You'll put it in a different room. And you're hanging out in the backyard or whatever, and you feel like your phone's buzzing in your pocket.
Dude,
you know I mean?
That was crazy.
Like, wait a second. I don't even have my phone. Why does it feel like someone's calling me or texting me?
Yeah, I thought I was going crazy for that. I'm like, what the heck? This is worse than a probably drug. This is like, this is a true addiction. I want to touch a little bit on that. Everybody's guilty on this. I'm guilty. My wife's guilty. I'm guilty with the kids. I try to be with kids, but screen time. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with screen time with your kids and with yourself? Because like I said, I can scroll through. If I don't stop myself, I can scroll through hours on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is. Right. How are you dealing that with your kids or with yourself?
Yeah, good question. Not great, you know what I mean? Because it does, it is tough in a business. I mean, any business, that our phones are a mini computer.
Yeah.
Your email's there. Now you got to have a social media presence. So you're trying to post to social media. You have your text message. You have your phone call, all the stuff, right? Everybody knows. And so it's really easy to pull that thing out, look at a text message, and then get sucked into Instagram or, I should make an Instagram post. And then next thing you know, there goes 20 minutes. We're still struggling through that. That brick thing does help with that. I probably have gotten more benefit out of the brick you can set up different profiles. So I have a work profile on there where it'll block YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all your social media stuff, so that when you're out of the home working, you're actually producing and working, right? You're not like, let me try and make this Instagram video or whatever. So I probably get more use out of the brick in that instance than the other. But my wife's she's not a huge screen time person. My wife, she doesn't even know where her phone is half the time, which I really respect her for that. I struggle with it. As soon as I get a text message, if somebody needs something from me, I feel like I have to do it right now. And so sometimes I won't answer phone calls and I won't look at text messages specifically for that reason, because the second I see it now, I have to go do it. I can't just put it away and say, I'll handle that tomorrow, which is why I have 150 unread text messages or something on my phone, right? But with the kids, it's really hard too, because they see it, they see you doing it, and so they want to be on the screens too, and that's a fight that we have.
Back to the same thing. Lessons are caught, not taught. Yeah, exactly. Behaviors are caught,
totally.
Not taught.
So they see me on my phone, and they want to watch a show on their phone or on the TV or whatever. And so my wife does really good at trying to limit the screen time, and we don't let our kids have a lot. I think our first kid, I don't even know if she got to see a screen until she was a year old, and then it dwindled from there. But she loves the TV, right? And so it's a fight every single day. She wants to watch Bluey, or she wants to watch Paw Patrol, or whatever the show is, right? And so that's a good question. We haven't figured that balance out yet, because we don't want to be the people who are so adamant against it that when they go to grandma's house, they can't watch a show, or when they're with their cousin. But we do see a behavioral change in our kids when they watch too much screen time. And I'm sure we have it too, right? So it's a good lesson. I mean, because that's the other thing I've learned with kids, is they're just mirrors of you. Yeah. So you see what they're doing and the things that annoy you that they're doing. It's like, well, that's what I do too,
I can't remember where I heard this, but it is so true. If you can, I don't know how the phrase goes. I'm probably gonna butcher it so bad, but they say, look at someone's kids and you can tell what kind of person they are. Yeah. If you look at someone's kids, you can tell what kind of person they are. Yeah. I'm like, my God, that is so true, man. Like you look at someone's kids and I started thinking about that. So I look at someone's kid, and if they just like 2-year-old and they're just there on their tablet, I can kind of already say, man, you're not I can tell what kind of person you are. You're neglected. You don't care. You start judging. But that is so sad, man. I wanted to point out, I said this yesterday the other day on the show. When we go to restaurants, no phones. No phones. When we go to eat breakfast, no phones. Nothing. They leave it in the car. I went to IHOP the other day, and a family of 4 came in. Kid probably 5 and 3, and the parents. They sat down, kids tablets on their hands. Like I said, no more than 5 and maybe 3. And Parents sat down on their phones. The server came up to them. They asked what they wanted to drink,
Right.
left off, and then everybody was on the phone. They were sitting at the table across from each other, and they were not even interacting.
Oh.
Where here, my kid is like, "Hey, paint with me." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'll paint with you." And
Yep.
it is just, we just don't know what kind of damage we're
Yep.
creating, that we're making to our kids by not even
Absolutely.
having that interaction. That's why I
Absolutely.
ask, because like I struggle with it too, man.
Absolutely. And it's hard. And I've talked to all my, friends and colleagues, same thing. It's just, I think we're all just, trying to figure it out. And it's all still, I mean, we grew up with screens and TV, but we didn't have these iPhones in our pockets until, I don't even think I had an iPhone until after I was out of high school. Like in college, so it's just a whole new game.
I
here.
didn't have a phone till I think I was like a sophomore year, and my brother got it for me, because back then you paid $10 for an extra line or something like that. And my dad got so mad that I got a phone. It wasn't like a smartphone. It was like a little, I don't know if you remember those Sony Ericssons. The small, tiny ones. Back then, we were cool. The smaller, the better.
Yeah.
The cooler you were.
Yeah.
The smaller the phone, the cooler you were.
Totally.
And yeah, my dad got mad. He's like, "Why do you need a phone?" I'm like, "I don't know, so I can call mom." And he's like, "You don't need a phone."
Right.
And now it's so normal.
Yep.
Everybody, like kids, 8-year-olds are having phones. Like, why does that kid need a
Right.
phone?
Yep.
So
it's hard. Yep. I think we're all gonna wonder what we did 20 years from now.
I hope not. So it's definitely a struggle. I want to switch a little bit to lessons and advice. What's one mistake that you made early in your days as a business owner that you still, you learn from that mistake and you still use today?
Yeah. I think a lot of it's just like paying attention to your numbers, right, in your books. Like, I think it's pretty easy as a business owner to focus on revenue, focus on sales, and just driving, hey, we did $50,000 a month, we did $1 million last year or whatever. And I'm sure we've all heard the saying, like, revenues for vanity, profits for sanity.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, like the books matter, hire a bookkeeper, have a professional accountant help you look through the numbers so that you actually understand what you're doing. Right. And I think a lot of it, so I would just say anything financial in terms of like, how is the business actually operating? Because I know a lot of people, I've heard on other shows too, where if you have enough revenue, like it can cure a lot of sins. And that's for sure, right? If you produce a lot of revenue with high margin, like you don't have to have your books as detailed, but like eventually that will catch up to you and you need to pay attention when you have a down year or a down month or whatever. And so I think just understanding the true core financial and the base like unit economics of your business is super important. And I feel like we're getting better at that, but that's still something like it took us 2 years, to understand like, okay, how do the books and the financial side of this construction business really work? Because construction it's a high revenue business with low margins. And so, you might be in the 10% net margin or 12% net margin at the end of the day. And so that's, you got to pay attention. There's not much,
we made $1 million in revenue,
Yep.
and you'll see a big number like,
Yep.
oh, well, I only had 10% margin.
Yep,
It's like,
exactly.
why take all this risk for only $100,000?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And then the other one that, so anything financial, and then coupled with like one thing that I'm implementing right now that I feel like is a lesson we're learning and I will use way into the future is I've been listening a lot to Alex Hormozy and a lot of his stuff. His new book just came out on his money model, and trying to figure out how to push as much cash into the front side of your business as possible, right? Because so in a construction company, it'd be like you might front load your draws. If you have a project that's gonna be $500,000, you might front load your first couple draws so you can get $150,000, $200,000 from the client on your foundation and your lumber to help front the rest of the project, right? Because in construction, a lot of what's expected is that you as the contractor fund the construction for your client,
float the whole
and then
thing.
you hope they pay you back, right? This is back to the problem I had with the other clients is I had a lot of money out there with that client and they just decided to write a check for less money to me, right? And so the question was, to the tune of $90,000, right? And so what we decided was it worth to fight that with an attorney or to get our money back and just keep going, right? And so what we're learning is like, hey, we are not a bank. I'm a home builder. So you as the client need to pay for your own projects. We cannot have our own capital in your projects. And so front loading those projects with cash so that you can finance the project with the client's own money is half the battle. So like those two lessons.
So having, in other words, so then the customer front loads the initial stages of the construction, the foundation, and the lumber package, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That way you don't get burned on the back end.
Yeah.
And you're always like one step ahead.
Yes. Or at least even.
At least even. You're not never behind.
Even versus now you have money in the business, in their project that you may or may not get paid on,
But that's
how many contractors do you know of that they don't get paid, or they're putting liens on people's houses for hundreds of thousands of dollars, that they have tied up, and that could sink a construction company. You know what I mean? And so,
but then,
same with, I talk with my subs about it too. Like me and my subcontractors talk a lot about this as well, because they're running similar businesses, right? Where they'll come do, for example, my electrical subcontractor, he may come and do, $10,000 worth of electrical work for me, and they pay for the materials, and they pay for the labor, and they pay for all that, and then they wait for me to pay. Well, in my business, I may have the capital to pay them right now today, and then they're good, or I may have to go to the client and request a draw, right? So, for example, right, here's an example, June 1st, they come and do electrical roughing.
Yep.
By the time they get me my invoice and stuff, June 10th, June 15th, right?
And you only get 2 draws, right? A month most of the time.
So then they send me the money or the invoice. So then I go to pay them. And if I delay 2 weeks, right? Now they're a month out on their, and then if I send that invoice to a client and they don't pay for 2 weeks or 4 weeks, or they're frustrated with the invoice and they want to, that electrical subcontractor could be carrying the cost. If I didn't pay him with my own money, he could be waiting 2, 4, 6 weeks, and that's a big deal, right? And so that's what we're trying to figure out, is not only with my business, but with my subcontractors, to make just the construction industry here in Burley just operate a little bit better, so that everybody's not so stressed. Because the biggest bottleneck in construction is capital, right? And if you're building if I'm building a home for you, you should have the money to build the home, or we shouldn't be talking about the project. You know what I mean? So why am I putting my money in your project when you're the one that's wanting to build the home? You know what I mean? So kind of a mindset shift there that we're trying to work through and help our subcontractors with as well, both to make our business more profitable and less stress as well as theirs. Yeah,
man, dude, that is so good, because I struggled when I was building my home. Like the framers like, hey, I need, we're halfway done. Can we get the half of the money? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you can't just float this. So I had to go, and luckily I was lucky enough that I had money out of my own, my own pocket. But I was trying to do and I learned this at the early stages. I went to go get a draw from the bank, and I already had done 3 draws, I think, in 1 month for the lumber, for the trusses and foundation. And the lender's like, hey, you can't just be drawing money every other week or every week. Like, you can only do 2 a month. I'm like, oh, I did not know that. So I went back like, shoot, man. Can you? And I told them they couldn't wait. So I went and had that. So I learned that really early on. I'm pretty sure you have to sacrifice things to achieve success. And that's a little bit of advice that you can give. What is it? Some of the things that you've had to sacrifice in order to achieve success. Yeah. And because people say oh, nothing comes with such, it can't be that. But I just go and open my doors and do something. But it takes a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, I think we don't. It takes sacrifice to live below your means, right? If you want to be successful and financially independent or financially successful, whatever you want to call it. You have to save money. And so a lot of the times, there's sacrifice, and you might not get to go hang out and eat out with your friends as much as you want, or you might not be able to buy that brand new vehicle for your wife or for you. So we've done a lot of that. We've never owned a brand new vehicle. We've always bought used. We've always rented. My first apartment in college, I rented a room with my cousin. We shared a room as 2 19-year-old kids, and I think it cost us $400 a month, right, to do it, so $200 a piece. And so we've always lived below our means in terms of that, and tried to be cognizant of, what we're making, what we're spending. And so a lot of it's just simple sacrifices like that. And I see a lot of people who get caught up in, they feel like they deserve a new vehicle because they've sacrificed or waited, X amount of years, and then they just get in trouble on monthly payment or whatever it might be, right? And so that's where we've decided to sacrifice. Is we don't need the brand new truck or the brand new car. We're okay with driving one that's a couple years old and let the first owner take some of that depreciation, and then we'll buy it, And so I wouldn't say that we've had to sacrifice like super crazy and only eat top ramen or this and that, right? But we've just been a little strategic in things that we're willing to sacrifice on, like that.
Yeah. Buying a new vehicle is probably one of the dumbest things you can do in the early stage. I mean, obviously, there's a time.
Yep.
For everything, right? When you're worth hundreds and have a lot of you can treat yourself, right? Because you've struggled, and it takes 10, 15 years that you can obviously go buy a new vehicle, buy whatever the toy. But you work for it, you waited. But in the early stages, people think that they're entitled to it. I'm like, I went to college. I sacrificed 2 years. I'm going to go get a brand new Cadillac. And then they're like, with a $1,200 payment, $1,300 payment. Like, dude, why'd you do that?
Right, totally.
And we build our own, like, cell. That's what we do. Like, our own little jail. That's what we do. We get into debt, and back to the same thing, not getting educated. We do not know how to manage our money, invest our money, and we just buy a bunch of liabilities because you don't know what to do with your life. You're just fresh out of high school and little dumb kid running around. Right. So, talking about advice, what advice would you give to your younger self? Back to 18, knowing what you know now. I mean, obviously you wouldn't, because your actions or mistakes have built who you are today, right? But the advice, the knowledge that you have now, what advice would you give to your younger self, Joe, or a young high school kid coming out of college? I mean, out of high school.
I think one thing that I feel like I've always struggled with is like kind of like trusting yourself and like kind of betting on yourself, right? And so I think like you have to have that with some healthy level of self-awareness, right? Like you don't want to be cocky and I can do anything and anything like that. So, I would just say like, but nobody's going to put the work in for you, And so like, if you're willing to put the work in, and nobody's going to hand you the keys to some successful business, like you have to go improve, provide value, whatever. And so I think a lot of it's just like bet on yourself and go do the work. You know what I mean? That's probably the biggest part is,
believe
do the
in yourself.
work. And I think I'm getting more and more too on like trying to think about life in decades, not years. Because I mean, like you said, a lot of people, overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Right. And so like the more like my wife and I have talked a lot about this as well, just recently, it's like, whatever our next step is in our business, like I want to invest a decade into it because things happen, things take time. You're going to have to shift, right? And so like, as you're looking, if you're 18 years old, just look at like what you want to build in a decade from now, whether that's married, have kids, college degree, whatever that might be, and look at that and go for that, right? And you'd be surprised how much, what you can get done in 5 years, but don't think I'm going to start this business and being a millionaire in a year. Like that's just not reality.
But isn't it so ironic that people rather work for someone for 40 years, but are not willing to sacrifice or put in the work to start their own thing for 5, 3, 4, 10 years?
Right.
But you are okay working for somebody for 40 years and then retire. And then you're 60 and you don't have the energy. You might have some money, but you don't have the energy. Gosh, that is so crazy, but that's in the culture we live, and not just here in Mexico. I mean, I see all of these people that they're betting on their pension. I'm like, no, don't bet on that. Like that's dumb. Like you can actually go work, go find something, go find a solution to a problem, and the bigger the problem, the more money you make.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And once you learn how to like produce value for somebody and you're paid for that, no one can take that from you, right? Someone can take your pension from you. Someone can take your job from you. But if you can provide value and sell it as a service or a product, someone could take all your money and all your assets and everything, but you still know how to sell and you still know how to produce value, then that,
If you lost everything today and had to rebuild from scratch, what would you do differently? And could you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. You could redo it. I could redo it, but it's mainly because, you learn all these skills, right? And so that's the encouragement I just give to young kids is like, just go try it. I definitely got stuck in the analysis paralysis up front too. And like, I mean, I started learning about investing in real estate in 2014.
Don't do what I did though.
14. Yeah.
Just go do it.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But 2014 to 2018, all I did was listen to Bigger Pockets and podcasts and YouTube videos on like how to invest in real estate. But not until 2018, when I bought my first property, did I really learn how to invest in real estate, right?
Yeah.
And then the second one, you learn more, and the third and the fourth. And so like I just convince people like find something. If you want to get into business, go sell ice cream bars, you know what I mean? Or popcorn, whatever, you know, go wash people's windows. Just go figure out how to convince a stranger to give you money for a service or product, and just go try it. Because there's a lot of ways you can do it low risk. Well, if you're young, you're still living with your parents or whatever, or do it on the side and then just work your way up from there.
Yeah, that's exactly how we kind of got the confidence to start something, my brother and I. We were working both for independent repair shops, and I had my little customers that the word got out there, and he had his own customers, and we figured out that like, hey, there's somebody out there willing to give us money in exchange for service, right? And like, we don't come from like business owners, and like, hey, if we can do this in a little bit, small scale, maybe we can do this at a large scale. Maybe we can really actually do this. And yeah, there's only two ways to make money in this world, and people don't know that. I don't know. Most people don't know that. You either sell a service or a product. Right. That's it. There's no other way. Like there is literally no other way.
Unless you steal it.
Yeah, unless you steal it. Yeah. There's no other way. You sell a service or a product, man. Yeah, but people do not. They just, like I said, they get too comfortable.
Yeah.
They get too comfortable.
Yeah.
We love action in this podcast, and that's one of the things that I really want to shoot for in this podcast. Anybody listen to it, I want them to get as much value and actionable steps that they can take today, not tomorrow, not in a month, so they can go get their first deal or start their own business. If people out there listening say, well, hey, I've thought about getting into construction, or I thought about buying my first rental, what are some actionable steps that people can take today in order to build their first spec home or get their first rental?
Yeah. Yeah. So if we're talking on the rental real estate side, one thing that I would say, like one step that you have to have figured out day one is figure out how to run numbers on a property, right? Go to Bigger Pockets, download one of their rental calculators, or I have one I'd be more than happy to send to anybody, you know, if they contact you. It's actually one of the original Rich Dad, Poor Dad calculators, right? That my mother-in-law got in like the early 2000s, right? It's the same Excel spreadsheet. Right? And we use that same Excel spreadsheet for, I mean, she's been using it for 20 years, right? So, yeah, learn how to run the numbers. And I'd say, go on Zillow, find every, filter down to apartment. And I think they have a thing on their apartment and multifamily.
Yes, they do.
Go look Burley, Rupert, Twin, whatever market you're in, and go run the numbers on every single available property in there. Go figure out what market rent rates are, what it could rent for, right? Figure out what the taxes are, figure out what the expenses are. And of course, you don't need to go contact these realtors and figure out what the taxes and expenses are. Like, use the numbers in Zillow. Just familiarize yourself with, like, how do you understand what numbers to run, what your return on investment is, so that you don't buy something that's going to bite you, right? If you're buying a long-term buy and hold. So that'd be the actionable step, I think, for that one. Because once you're confident in your numbers, buying the deal's easy.
Yeah.
But you got to be confident that you're going to produce return.
Yes. And people might be stuck on this. Like, oh, that's easy to say. You have your numbers. You already know. But what should I actually expect? What is it that what's a good cash-on-cash return?
Yeah.
A healthy cash on. I mean, because everybody wants, if you could get a 30 cash on cash, 30%, who wouldn't, right? But what's a healthy cash on cash return that says, hey, this is a deal?
Right now, what we're seeing about 8%, and that's just the reality, right? We let that storage deal that we're kind of underwriting, that one's looking like a 10 or 11%, but that's because it's a big value add, right? It's way under rented. It needs some work. It's going to need some capital investment. But if you're buying something new, most of the stuff on the market right now is unfortunately value add, so it's going to take a little bit of extra work and stuff. But what we're shooting for right now is about 8% cash on cash return. And then, of course, the reason we invest in real estate is is, you've heard Brandon Turner talk about on Bigger Pockets, is you get the cash on cash return, you get the appreciation of the property, you get the principal pay down of the debt, and you get the tax advantages, right? So there's a whole nother topic we could talk about on internal rate of return that, you know, brings all that into a return number. But if you can hit an 8% cash on cash, 8 to 10, you're going to be okay. But you just have to understand it's a get rich slow play.
Yep. And what about on the construction side?
Yeah.
Somebody is thinking, oh, I wanna go build my home. I want to give this a shot.
Yep.
I have, maybe there's somebody out there does have a couple $100,000 saved up. People are good with money.
Yep.
How can they start, or what is it, some of the first things that they can do or learn or familiarize to do this?
Yeah, I think same on that one. You really want to understand your market. So if we talk spec market, in your spec house market, the rules of thumb that you need to follow is, obviously you can go pull lists on Zillow and go look at any new construction home and see, like, so for Burley example, let's just look at Burley. In Burley, we can look and see that new construction homes are selling probably about that $235 a square foot. So that's kind of your after construction cost, you know, or your comparable that you're going to use. And then you can back your numbers into what you're going to pay to build the home. Right now we're seeing anywhere from, and a low end spec product, we're probably about without paying a general contractor, if you're doing it yourself, probably about $165 a square foot, then your land cost, right? So your rules of thumb that you want to look at is you don't want to spend more than 25% of the comparable value, the sales price of the home on the lot. So if you're going to sell a home for $400,000, you don't want to buy a lot for more than $100,000. And that's probably even a little bit tight. So $100,000 or less on your lot. And then you can go, and of course your whole game at that point is to control costs and your labor and material to get that. But I would say both is just education on understanding in the rental side what your numbers are, so you can make sure you get an actual return on your investment. And then in the construction side, you need to understand what your sales price of your home is going to be, right? Because it doesn't make sense to go build a home that you're going to lose money on, right? And so you need to understand what you can sell the home for and what the cost of the home is going to be. And again, that's just something that comes with time. And when you get floor plans, if you buy for a set of floor plans, you can go and bid that out. So an actionable step, if you were really serious about it, is you could buy a 1,400 square foot home plan online for $800, and you could send that out to bid. Send that to your brother for foundation, right? Send that out to whoever for framing and electrical and HVAC, anybody that you know, and go build out a budget, you know? And you can go through, you can look up the National Association of Home Builder cost codes, which break it down by foundation, framing, electrical, all the line items that are part of a home. You can go look those up on Google, and you can go get a bid for every single line item of those, and that's your cost, you know? And then you can try and shop it and get it cheaper, or, you know, whatever you want to do there. But it's just a simple formula. It's just work, you know?
It's just work. Man, that is so good. When I built my home, I learned, nobody knew how to make a house. My brother had his own he did have his own construction at the time, but he just did the foundation, right? I had to go learn, like, what's the step by step. And I got a lot of knowledge. And my buddy up in Twin Falls, he's a nurse, he's a doctor now, and he's just barely finishing his home. He's like, hey man, I saw you do your home. Can you give me a hand? I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, I'll give you a full. Can you give me a guide? Yeah. I typed like a 5-page guide of how to do step by step. Like, dude, this guide, it's worth hundreds of dollars, man. This is blood, sweat, and tears. I better get like a cookout when you're done with your house. I better get a cookout. He laughs. But yeah, it is so much. People don't know the struggles and the ins and outs. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Absolutely. And right now, I mean, with ChatGPT and stuff, like, that's a game changer too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, you can hop into ChatGPT and ask it. You know, ChatGPT is only as good as the question or the prompt that you get it, right? But like, if you get in there and you even just start asking it, you know, hey, ask it, how do I find a good rental? You know, if I'm looking for an 8% cash on cash return, and it'll tell it, you know, if you use the paid version, it'll even pull listings and say, hey, this one, you know, look at this one or look at that one. And so I think with ChatGPT or any AI, like, that's definitely going to change the business game. And so you can utilize that to even just get a base knowledge of, like, what are the steps to build a home, and it'll go through and kind of give you a base level
Yeah.
to get started.
But you have to put the right problem.
Yep.
Exactly to this podcast.
Yep.
I put it, I'm like, hey, how can I really start a podcast?
Yeah.
And I just threw a little bit stuff.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I really want to elaborate something that
Yeah.
takes actionable. And the more
Yeah.
I put it, it just threw me information.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap, man. No
Yeah.
wonder everybody uses
Right.
ChatGPT.
Yeah. We use it every single day
I'm
in
like,
the business.
if I had ChatGPT back in high school days, man, I would have graduated with honors
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, we use it. I use the paid version. We pay for it. We use it every day for one. Like a perfect example for us is I've basically taught my Chat GPT or whatever to. We have a template for our project recaps, right? So if I go meet with a subcontractor, I meet with a homeowner, I've built out a template within Chat GPT that it says, who was at the meeting, what the date of the meeting, which project it was. Then it says what we talked about, a recap of what we talked about, action items that need to be taken, right? And who's responsible for them. And then it PDFs that and I send it out to my subcontractors and my clients, right? And so we have all of those housed. So like now you don't have to, what did they say? What did they do? Right. And it happens in 30 seconds. I hop in the truck. I speak, voice to text in it. This is what the meeting was, right while it's fresh on my brain. And then it produces the PDF while I drive to the next job. And then I just send it to the clients or my subs or whoever needs it.
Don't you think it's so amazing that also with that, talking about ChatGPT and AI, there's really no excuses out there? Like there's no excuses. Oh, I don't know how to underwrite.
Yeah.
Put it on that darn thing. How much is the paid version? 20
bucks, I think.
Yeah, 20 bucks a month.
Yep.
Like if you are not willing to spend 20 bucks a month to pay like a mentor, an AI mentor, then you're not serious about it. You really don't want it. Like there's literally no excuses. Whether you want to start a restaurant, a podcast, a construction. I mean, obviously it doesn't, like the experience doesn't get provided, but you take action.
It gives you a template to take action on. Another thing we've been utilizing it for is doing all of our material takeoffs, right? I'm kind of training it to, hey, when we start a project and we're doing a new takeoff to order lumber, and specifically for lumber, it'll ask me, is this a slab on grade foundation or is it a crawl space? Does it have pony walls? Does it have pressure treated sill plate? It'll ask me this series of questions, and then it'll ask me for some dimensions as well, and I'll pump in some information. And I've almost got it trained up. I've been practicing on a couple floor plans the last couple of days where it can produce a takeoff based on a set of like 40 questions than what used to take me hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
Right? So I can pull up a set of plans and I just type in there, hey, I'm going to do a lumber takeoff, open up my template, and it'll just start asking me questions. And I just feed it the information, and then it puts it in a table, and I send it to my lumber supplier and say, quote me this material, right? Granted, I do have some experience to look at it and say, that seems a little high, that seems a little low, or that's about right. But like, and of course you always have to double check it. But like, dude, to produce PDFs, to produce information, any of that stuff, like it, I mean, you can't beat it.
Oh,
for
yeah.
20 bucks a month.
No. Yeah, no. And I use that on my real estate. Like, hey, can you give me KPIs and for my real estate and wholesale business? What is it for a lead manager too? And it just produces a lot, man. It's just so amazing.
Yeah.
So there really is no excuses out there. I named the show Investing Without Regrets because a lot of people tend to have a regret or a buyer's remorse. I have that when I invested into mentorships. I'm like, oh, should I do a big check for this, or should I invest in this? And then I start having regrets. And I don't want people to do that, like whether they invest in themselves or invest in property. What has been your best investment that you did not have any regrets at all whatsoever?
Chat GPT for 20 bucks a month.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to go get the paid version.
Go get the paid version. It's worth it. No, that's a good question. I think the biggest investment, like, it's so cliche, right? But it's like really investing in yourselves and like books. Books are a big one, right? For 20 bucks, like Alex Hormozy's 3 books, right? You can buy his 3 books for a total of $60 or something. I think he even has some PDF versions that aren't even paperback that are cheaper than that, right? And those books have so much, right? You can gain, how long's he been in business? 15 years, and he's on his way to become a billionaire. Like, you can gain so much from these people. And what I've learned in the mentorships and stuff, we've done some mentorship programs and stuff as well. Those really are, you get in, you get out what you give, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of give people advice. If you're not willing to invest the time and the resources to be in the mentor, don't even do it, right? Because I've had some where I thought at times, oh, I got time for this, and I didn't, and that was $5,000 that was wasted or whatever. And so I think that's where the regret comes in. And so for me, it's just like, investing in your skill set is back to like what nobody can take away from you, right? Is you invest in your ability to sell, your ability to network, your ability to produce, right? Like nobody will ever take that from you. So for me, that is probably one of the only investments that I haven't regretted, because it's like each year we just get better at what we do, and that'll never go away.
Man, that is 100% correct. Networking is a big thing. You have to break out of your comfort zone. When I've gone into these masterminds or events, I would just be there shy. I'm like, oh, who do I talk to? And you push yourself. I'm like, hey, I'm Ivan. Like I do this. And then next thing you know, you start talking and you start learning, but you have to go in and be willing to knock on the door and ask. You never know unless you ask,
Absolutely.
right? Well, as we shift towards the end of the show, I'm still playing with this idea. I'm going to call it the Fun 5 for right now. The point of this Fun 5 is 5 questions that have changed the direction of your life, or something that has really pivoted your life, or gave you good wisdom, or you learned something. So starting with question number 1. What are 3 books that you recommend that people should read to change the direction of their life? Or that's changed the direction of their life?
Of course, if you're a real estate investor, you got to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That's usually the one that gets people thinking about investing in real estate, becoming a business owner, right? It's the whole paradigm shift of, like cash flow and all the stuff, right? And basically like working for a check or letting your money work for you. And so check out Rich Dad Poor Dad. Another one, that Family Teams book that I was talking about, that was a big shift for me in terms of, and that's more Jewish money principles, based on like Old Testament biblical Jewish principles on money and how to integrate your family into like your business and generational wealth, that type of thing. And the third one, I do really like. I would say Traction by Gino Wickman.
Gino Wickman.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I think I'm going to go back with Alex Hormozy's books. His $100 million offers and stuff is pretty good in terms of how to I guess form an offer that seems like it'd be stupid not to take, right? So he does a lot of stuff in terms of like, hey, like an example of one that'd be kind of cheesy, but as a home builder, you'd say like, hey, if we like, I'm going to charge you this amount of money. You basically want to de-risk people's investments, right? And so you say, hey, I'm going to charge you $30,000 to build this house for you in terms of general contractor fee. And if we don't get you into your home by Christmas, then you pay nothing. You know what I mean? And so to them, it's like, oh, great. Like if you're, you give them this guarantee that if you don't hit, right? And so there's this way. And so it's super interesting and kind of shifting my paradigm on business on how can you give people an offer where it feels like they're getting maximum value and they are perceiving less risk, right? And if you can figure those two things out, then it makes it a no-brainer for them.
That guy's a freaking genius. He says, how can you, I saw a video of him, it's like, how can you make this an irresistible offer? Well, if you're selling something at $5 a piece, instead of saying buy 3 things for $5 a piece, no, buy 1 thing for $15 and get 2 of these for free. That's just in someone's mind, that's immediately change that, like a perspective, like, oh man, I'm getting 2 things for free. And people love free. People love free.
Exactly. Whether it's truly free or not.
I know if that's not but nothing's ever free.
So that's a good book. And it's a little, sometimes I would say it's maybe not as tactical as some other books. It's a little like philosophy, and he's definitely more philosophical. But like, so then use ChatGPT to, hey, Alex Hormozy's $100 million offer and the framework he uses in that book. How do I apply that to my business? Right? Give me some ideas on how to apply that in my business, because that was one thing when I read that book, I was like, geez, like I don't even know if this applies to a general contractor or a real estate investor. So then you can use your ChatGPT or AI or whatever and help really make that tactical and figure out how to produce some offers for your business.
Dude, that is so good, man. Describe entrepreneurship and investing. How would you describe an entrepreneur?
That's a good question too. I listened to a podcast. It was actually yesterday. He was talking about that. And he was talking about an entrepreneur. He says a true entrepreneur is someone who, I got to think about this so I don't butcher it, but is someone who is willing to take risk, who's responsible, who has a hard work ethic. There might have been a couple other ones there, but to me, it's basically someone who's willing to trade their time and produce, be a service or produce value for somebody else in exchange of money, right? And so with that, you will sacrifice a lot, you will work hard, but at the end of the day, being in control of your income and how your family actually makes money is ultimately freeing.
Yeah. That's so good, man. What are good habits you need to achieve success?
Consistency. So I think in success, one, it's just like consistency and not giving up and showing up every day. Like, being in business, it's like there's so many days where you just don't feel like it, right? You wake up and it's like, oh man, like the weight of the world, like this, tenant issue and this subcontractor issue and this material issue, and just like picking one step to take and just one foot in front of the other and know that just slowly but surely you will get there. I think it's just waking up and showing up, you know what I mean? And putting the work in.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
One step at a time. Yeah, that is so good. And then just the opportunity of getting to wake up.
Yep.
That's
totally.
that's all you need. As long as we have health,
Yep.
That's all you need.
Yep.
That's all you really need. Okay. Most inspiring quote you live by.
Yeah. I'm not a huge quote guy, but one quote that I've really thought is interesting is he's actually the CEO and founder of Black Rifle Coffee. His name's Evan Hafer, ex-Army Green Beret, all the things. And one thing that he says a lot is psychology is more contagious than the flu. And I think that is so true, right? Because you go hang out with your friends and one friend starts complaining, and then your buddy starts complaining, and then you start complaining, right? Or, someone's bragging about something, then you brag, and, and so it's just like the psychology of the people around you is more contagious than the flu. And I think that's 100% accurate.
Dude, that is so good, man. That is so good. And yeah, back to the same thing. Yeah, if you're just hanging out with people that complain, that's all you're going to get. And if you hang out by people that look beyond what you can even see, then you're going to start seeing life differently. Awesome. Best piece of advice you have ever received in life or business?
That's a good one. Best piece of advice that I've received. Probably something similar to like your reputation's all that you have, right? And like
the word. Yeah,
and be, having integrity and doing what's right, because especially in a small town like we live in, if you're screwing people over, you don't have integrity, and have a good reputation, like you're not going to make it. And so you never know when it's going to come back around. Or, people like don't burn bridges, because you never know when that person might become your boss or whatever, right? Like that is very true. Or you might need that person to close the deal later. And so like taking everything with like a sense of grace and just kind of, kicking it to the side and not getting too beat up about it, I think is super important.
Don't take it too much personal.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes we tend to do that, and then our ego can get in our way.
And one thing I've really learned over the years, like, it's not about you. You know what I mean? Like, he's not trying to screw you over. That person, it's not personal to you. They've got a whole nother thing going on in their life, right? It's the best decision that they have for them at that point. And like, you just got to take it for what it is and move on, and not beat yourself up over it, because no sense in you staying up at night worrying about it when they don't even care,
Yeah. So you're telling me that you didn't try to screw me over when you bought my property? I
paid fair market value for your lot.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That thing was that freaking property. Yeah. I hold on to that thing for like 9 months. No, like a little over a year. Mm-hmm. I was just holding on, like, what am I gonna do? Believe it or not, the moment I sold that, and even though I took a $40,000 loss, was the biggest relief. I could breathe. I didn't get the letters from the city of take care of the weeds.
Yep.
It was just like the biggest relief. I'm like, I should have done this like 6 months ago.
Right.
Just lost the money and been out of it.
Well, if you want to sell any more properties for a $40,000 loss,
no. Let's not do that.
But hey, I even broke my own rule of thumb on that one. I bought that lot for What did I pay you for that one? Do you remember?
65.
65,000 or 67? Yeah, somewhere in there.
Well, you pay closing costs.
Yeah, so let's say 67. Well, let's just 70,000 for easy math, right? Times 4 would be what?
280.
Yeah, 280.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't break my own rule of thumb. I think we're gonna list that house for right at 310.
Yeah, but minus my kickback.
Minus your kickback and realtor closing and all of that. Yeah,
Okay, Joe, it's been awesome talking to you, man. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about new construction, about how they can build spec homes, or they want to buy their first rental? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I think the best way is probably just reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is just my name at Joe Ferrin, JoeFerrin. We post, at least a couple times a week there. We check our messages there. And we post real estate investing content as well as construction there. So yeah, if you want to learn more about what we're doing or get in touch with me, that's probably the best way. And yeah, check us out there and keep in touch with us.
Okay, good. Awesome, Joe. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing the ups and downs, the wisdom, the mistakes, and your success. Well, guys, you already heard Joe. Take action. Stop procrastinating, and that's how you can start building the life of your dreams and become free. Joe, thank you for
Thanks
thank you for
being
being
Yep.
here.
Talk to you later.